You're listening to a Soul One podcast.
I almost said ho 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 Merry Christmas, but it's Happy New Year.
Did we not have a Christmas episode?
We did. So I don't know. I'm not too sure what happened there, but that's where my brain, I guess, is still. But Happy New Year, Taylor. It's 2025 by the time people listen to this.
Yeah, isn't that so weird? I mean, this is going to be our recap episode, but 2024 definitely felt like a long but short year. Like when you sent me the list of movies we watched this year, I'm like, what? Like some of the movies I didn't even remember. I'm like, I don't know I have no idea what this is. So yeah, that's kind of my 2024. It was a blur. Hopefully I'll remember 2025 a little bit better, but I doubt that I will. So there's
Did
that.
anything from your list surprise you? Whether it be like in volume or where a movie landed. Like, for example, when I did the list and you only had 5 skip-its, that surprised me.
I feel like I take a Matt Sultan approach where I'm so hesitant to totally pan a movie. Although I think if, and I might be putting words in his mouth, but I remember he came on one episode and he said, I'll always tell people to go to the theater because he said like he'll never give a skip it because he just wants people to go to the movies. So I really internalized that. Yeah. And I'm like, I am hesitant to completely pan a movie. I have to feel so strongly about a movie to really pan it. I think also I'm very comfortable in the gray, and I like to find things in movies. Like I think for the most part, Mike, any movie will find its niche, its audience, and it's the movies that are just so bad that I think no one should watch this, no one would like it. Those are the movies I end up saying skip it. But I wonder if in years past I had more skip its. I must have.
You did. Yeah, I think this is a low for you in terms of the amount. And what's interesting is we're going to be talking about our favorite, our best 5 and worst 5 today. And I wrote down a guess for what you said are your top 5 movies. And then when I went to do the bottom 5 to do a guess as well, there were only 5 skip-its. So I put them all on there. But knowing you, you're the type who would suddenly pull a stream it down and be like, actually, this was one of the worst movies of the year. I could see you breaking the rules in that way. So now
you know what, Mike? I'm just very quickly looking at my list. Like, no, my skip-its are my skip-its. Like, okay. They're locked in. They're locked in.
There's nothing that you look at your skip-its and say, actually, I think on that movie a little bit more fondly than I did now. Those are locked in. You believe these are your worst 5 of the year.
Yeah. Like it's when you compare it to
the others, yeah.
The others. It's like, yeah, that
makes sense.
Fair. That makes sense. Yeah, you're like that there no need. I am moving a stream it into my best of list.
Oh, okay. Because I wrote down a guess. I mean, I will go through it, but I have the 5 here that I think you're going to pick for best. So I'm very curious to see if I'm right.
Yeah, I'm curious as well. And I, as a tease, I guess you could say, I also, not only am I moving a stream it up to my best of list, I'm also including a movie that we have not reviewed on the show yet.
That's right. Because you make your own rules.
I make my own rules. But to be fair, I watched it over Christmas break, and it is a 2024 movie, so I think it's well within the bounds of adding it to this list. I would say, I don't think it would be fair, Mike, if I watched the movie and tried to after the episode and tried to retroactively revise my list.
Right.
I think I'm within the rules because I watched it before the list was made. Does that make sense?
I
That's why.
suppose so. I have a movie in my See It that I didn't review, but you reviewed, but I have subsequently seen. So I put it on
Okay.
my See It list because I also thought it was a See It. So I guess that's fine. The movie in question that you saw, I also saw, and we're going to be reviewing it on this show in 2 weeks' time
Yep.
because next week we've got our book movie club. Conclave
Woohoo!
is coming up, so that's just a reminder to everyone to finish reading Conclave and try to watch the movie. I'm almost done the book, and my plan is to watch the movie this coming weekend. So I'm
Are
ready
you
for our
listening or
chat.
reading? Are you
I am
listening or
I am listening. I took your suggestion and I went into the
Audible?
what do you call it? Audible and got it with one of my apparently I have 25 credits I haven't used.
Holy moly!
So I went in there and bought it with one of my credits and
That's
then
25 books, Mike.
that's right.
That's hundreds of dollars worth of books.
When I went to buy it, it was like, "Oh, do you want to buy this with one of your credits?" And I'm like, "Sure." So I did that, and then I looked and like, "You have 25 credits left." Like, "Oh. Oh."
Have you been paying for an Audible subscription and just didn't know?
I guess so.
You might want to cancel that. It's like
I'm paying for
$14 a month.
yeah, I'm definitely paying for an Audible subscription. I mean, I listen to audiobooks occasionally on there. But I didn't know I had this many credits.
Because when you pay, this is what I think. This is kind of a little bit of a tangent, but it's related to books. And because our book club is next week, I think it's fair. So, Audible is a platform I really don't understand. So when I first gave birth to George, but I had a friend gift me an Audible subscription, um not realizing what I don't understand about it is that you pay the monthly subscription, you get one free book, but then you still, once you've used your free token, you then have to buy the subsequent books, and the books are like on average $20. So it's like you're paying a $14 fee for the privilege of then paying $20 per book. I don't understand that model.
I think my Audible though is looped in with something else. Like I think I
Oh,
only
you get
have
it as like
Audible.
a
It's like an add-on to Prime or something, so it's a little bit cheaper.
okay.
Like I think it's looped. I think it's all connected to my Prime. Okay, so according to Audible, I've been a member since 2020. I
Okay.
currently have 24 unused credits, but I have 53 titles in my library, and I have 15 badges.
So you are actively listening to audiobooks.
Well, not for a while, but yes. But yeah, I
COVID.
so
That was
to
definitely a COVID
a COVID.
activity for
Oh,
you.
100%. Yeah. During COVID, I was all over audiobooks during COVID. So according to this, I have 2 credits that expire in 20 days, and on January 15th I get one more credit.
We'll
So
definitely use the ones that
I
are going
should
to
probably use them.
expire.
Yeah.
They're
Well, so
free
my plan
books.
it's Audible Premium Plus that I'm on, and it's 2 credits monthly. So
You better check how much you're paying for that
I should
subscription,
check
Mike.
into that because it's definitely like you're right. It's a COVID purchase for sure because
I
that's
feel like
what I did.
I feel like you probably locked in at a time where there was like promotional pricing, and then
Yes.
you did the thing that subscribers are subscription services are hoping people do, is that they forget that they have the app and then just continue to pay $14 every month.
I definitely
I
don't pay $14 though because I'm pretty sure I get like it is paid for including with my like I'm on some deal that's connected to my Prime. Like I
I
have to be.
just you just have to be paying something though, Mike, cuz to get 2 free credits.
I don't think
eh,
I'm paying much.
I want what you have. I want to
I know you think I am, but I'm very on top of my very non-existent finances, and I've never seen a charge go to Audible. So I don't know
That's
what's going
weird.
on,
I
but
wanna
yeah,
know I wanna know how you locked into that,
I
because
don't know.
I'm right now, I they had a end of a year deal where you could pay $1 a month for
Mm,
3 months. So in January,
you
I'll
jumped on
cancel
that.
my well, especially because of Conclave, I was like,
Yeah,
"Well, I'm getting my free token for $1." It's like I paid $1 for that book. Sign me
yeah,
up. So
yeah.
anyways, yeah, I'll be canceling my subscription unless Mike can somehow hook me up with this magical
I'll look into
2
it. but
2 tokens a month.
whatever this is where I'm not paying anything or it's
Oh
I
my
think it's
gosh.
connected to Prime. Like I think when I
But
bought
I have Prime
Amazon
too.
Prime during the pandemic, this all connected.
Oh, maybe, like, you somehow locked into
Yeah, I
an
somehow got
amazing
everything
deal.
because I didn't even have Prime at that time. I didn't have Prime Video and I didn't have Prime. So I signed up for Prime for something and it gave me Audible and video for free with at whatever level that I am.
Wow.
But so it's all together and it's not that much money because I don't think I pay much for it. Now I've since added you can add channels now
Yeah.
because I'm a Star Trek guy. I added Paramount Plus because that's the only way you can get all your Star Trek. But yeah, I mean that's the way it is. I got to look into this though. This is fascinating. I'm learning so much. I really got to dive into this, or maybe I shouldn't because it's just such a good thing. I don't want
Ignorance
anyone
is
knowing.
ignorance is bliss. You know, you yeah. I will say in the grand scheme of streamers, Amazon Prime is probably the one that I use the most. Just in
Yeah,
terms of like shipping, like actual Amazon, then
yeah.
like the media, the channels you can bundle.
And you can
Yeah.
you can I mean it does cost extra, but renting these movies that just came out has been really helpful,
Oh my gosh, so
especially for our
convenient.
show. Like it's so much more convenient to rent a couple movies that are like struggling and they come out of the theater early and then it's still a new movie for us to review. Like it's been pretty helpful for that too. So
I watched Conclave today on Amazon Prime. I
there you
rented it.
go. Eh,
And Mike, I'll have you know, I paid 19.99 for that rental, not the 6.99 I paid for
For
Joker.
Joker.
So
That
the
tells you
plot
something.
thickens.
The quality that tells you something about the quality. But we should stop talking about Amazon because they should pay us if they
True.
want more.
We're giving them
Become
free
a
advertising.
sponsor, Amazon Prime, and we'll consider that.
We'll exclusively
That's
air on
right.
Amazon Music.
Absolutely, we'll do it. We've already said we will change our name.
Yeah.
We will. You know, skipping through the Amazon. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But you just pay us. We'll sell. We have no scruples.
as
Um,
as we heard, Mike's non-existent finances could really use Amazon.
100%. Oh, I a sponsorship. I'm a sponsorship away from eating again. So let's let's dive into a recap of all the movies we reviewed from 2024. So obviously we're going to give our best and worst. We're going to do that, but I thought it would also be nice to just kind of look at our lists and just kind of we can read off what movies we saw at each level and we can talk a little bit about them. But really, I'm interested to see if there's anything that you look back on, Taylor, and remember, of course, and you look back on and say, you know what, I like this a little more than I may have originally, or maybe sitting with it, you didn't like it as much. Like I'm always interested to see if your mind changes at all as we go through. Um,
Well, can I? Sorry. So
do whatever we do. Go ahead.
are we gonna read the list first, or are we
Yeah,
gonna? Okay,
I thought we would start with skip it and go up,
sure,
and we'd each read our lists. But then we would, if there's any movies you want to talk about, we can talk about them.
sure. So my skip it was the 2024 Roadhouse, Ricky Stenicki, Love Lies Bleeding, the 2024 The Crow, and Hold Your Breath. And while I was looking at this list, Mike, I was like, "What's Hold Your Breath?" That was one of those
You're
movies where
kidding.
I was like, I literally was like, I do not remember that, but it's the
Wow.
it's the one, the Dust Bowl, the
Mhm,
mom's in the house with her
mhm.
daughters. There might be a murderer.
Yeah.
And so as we talked about this at the very top of the episode, I think. I also
Yeah.
don't remember now. Because we talked a little bit before we started recording, but yes, I have exactly 5 skip-its, which
These
it
are your worst five.
probably is my worst 5. It's locked in. I'm not making any changes. This is probably Mike thinks that this might be my lowest, or it's definitely
Yeah.
lower
I think it's your
than.
lowest that you've ever had. I think so.
I think motherhood has made me soft, and I don't mean that as a joke. I think literally, I think
But I
motherhood has
mean,
made me
maybe,
soft
maybe. But like
and
these
more
movies,
complacent.
what's interesting to me about your list is two of these three movies were like remakes
Yeah,
of relatively classic movies that at least that you liked and have seen, and they obviously didn't work for you. And then like the other three, even the way you describe them, they just sound forgettable. Like they
Yep.
just sound kind of like like kind of forget about it, which I just thought that was interesting that you kind of had a bit of a pattern with your five.
I think the 5, like, as much as we joke about, like, "Oh, that's a Taylor movie," um, my skip-its are, like, Taylor skip-its. So, like, you're
Hmm.
exactly right, like, this is definitely, like, within my pattern. So, everyone longtime li I shouldn't say everyone, longtime listeners of the show know that one of my hugest pet peeves is remakes of beloved IP, of
Hmm.
intellectual property. I think, like, if it's I don't like reboots. I typically don't like sequels. I don't like remakes. I don't think we need to dig up the corpse of a media franchise from the 80s and like make it new. So I think it totally checks out that I didn't like Roadhouse and The Crow, but I also would just say like they're bad movies. Like
Yeah.
they weren't it's not just me being like a curmudgeon. I'm pretty sure the review I think general reviews also agreed that these were not good movies. And then Ricky Stenicki, yeah, absolutely horrible. Felt like a joke movie. Love Lies Bleeding, like joke movie as in like it's like the premise, like you're
Yeah.
watching like 30 Rock and it's like
Yeah.
the poster for the fake movie
That's
within the
right.
TV show. That's what
Yes.
Ricky Stenicki felt like. Um,
That's so funny because there's I there's some stars in that movie. Like it's not like
yeah.
there was no one in it. Like Zac Efron, and who played Ricky Sticky? Was it John Cena?
Yeah, John Cena. And I
Yeah,
like John Cena more
and
than
I
you
would
like him.
yeah. Well, I mean, I would still argue John Cena's not a no-namer. Like I would say he's getting recognition. He's been in some big movies. Like he's definitely maybe not an A-list star, but I would say a B-list
Sure.
star. Um, and the fact that they were in this movie that you just described as a joke movie is just it's so odd to me because I would say John Cena and Zac Efron have done very good films as well.
I think it was a direct to Amazon. It was definitely but again, like this year or like late last year, Amazon acquired a movie studio. I forget which one, maybe Universal. I'm not sure. And that really went under the radar. Like all of a sudden, Amazon was releasing, and again, I could be wrong, but like let's just say it's Universal. They were
Right.
releasing Universal movies as um sort of Amazon originals. So I can't say for certain if Rookie Sinicki was always slated to be a direct
Yeah.
to streaming release. It might have been supposed to go to theaters, but then because of the acquisition
Saw
ended
it.
up on Amazon. But it definitely felt like a direct to streaming movie. Like it's
Yeah.
definitely felt like a B movie. So that was, that is what it is. Love Lies Bleeding was just too weird for me
Mm.
and didn't work for me. And then Hold Your Breath was just utterly forgettable. So
Yeah.
I think my 5 is fair. Like
Yeah.
the other stream it's like I think there's definitely things that um I think are like there's redeemable factors to it, and like air planets are always like fun or silly or whatever. So yeah, I'm gonna lock in my skip its and I stand by those.
There you go. There's your the Taylor's worst 5 movies of the year. Just your skippets. You're very to the point and concise, and you stick by your ratings. You
Yes.
have a system. It works for you.
Hmm.
Um, okay, so what I'll do is I'll go through my 10 skippets, but I'll only focus and say something like you did about my 5 worst films of the year.
Okay.
So my skippets, I'll go through the list first. Madam Web, If, Bad Boys Ride or Die, Jackpot, Borderlands, Am I Racist, Hold Your Breath, Gladiator 2, Subservience, and Joker Folie à Deux. Um, so those are my 10 skippets. We did have, so I guess Hold Your Breath. We both had that one because I also saw that, and that's on. I also did not quite remember what that movie was, uh,
Which is
so
like
focus on that.
that's to me one of the major deciding factors if it's for a worst movie of the year is if it's forgettable. Cuz
Right.
if it's even if the movie's not good but I've thought about it afterwards, there's something about the movie that has staying power. Even if it's like a passing staying power, but like if I utterly cannot remember what that movie is, skip it. Not a good movie.
So there's something really interesting that happened when I made my list because there was a couple movies I was considering. I probably could have put any of these on here, but there were 4 movies in particular that stuck out to me that I had to put on this list, and then there's one other one that was kinda torn. I could have replaced it with anything, like, it was just kinda on there. Um, and what's really interesting, I'm gonna save this one particular one for last because I think it was the worst movie I saw all year. The worst movie I saw this year also had 2 people starring in it who each are in 2 of my best films of the year.
Yeah,
So
that
that
checks out.
that tells you something right there. That's really fascinating. So we'll go through my bottom 5. So here are my worst movies from my skip-its. So I've got Gladiator 2. I was really disappointed by this movie. I don't know if I was in just a bad mood because of all the weird stuff around the Roman Empire that I was angry about, but it was an incoherent mess. And for about 20 minutes, I thought it was going to be a really good movie, and then it just fell apart. Um, it has very little redeeming qualities to it. It's too long. It's over bloated. It's everything, Taylor, you and I always say we hate
Mm.
about bigger blockbuster movies. It's all of that rolled into one. So
Here's a quick question for you, Mike, and I know mainstream reviews don't hold a lot of salt,
mhm,
I would say more so even now, but I think they can kind of give you, like, a general feeling for how a
sure,
movie is going to perform or is performing.
yeah.
What have people I felt like initial reviews of Gladiator 2 were positive, or am I misremembering?
It was mixed. So the
Okay,
initial reviews before it opened were overly positive.
right.
But once it opened and some other critics started to see it and moviegoers started to see it, it was very diversive. Like some people really loved this movie, a lot of people really didn't. And then what ended up happening with Gladiator 2 was it did okay at the box office, but it didn't have the same staying power
Mm.
as some of the other big blockbusters. And that was honestly because most people were right down the middle about this movie, where they're like, yeah, it was all right, but I'm not going to go and see it again, or I'm not going to like rush out to see it with a new group of friends. You know
Or,
what I
like,
mean?
recommend it.
That's right, yeah, unlike movies like Oppenheimer, Barbie, and Wicked
Wicked,
that,
yeah.
like, people were like, "Oh, I'm gonna go see it a second time." Like, now I've seen it with my friends, I'm gonna go with my mom, or now I'm gonna go with this group of people, or I'm gonna like, you know what I mean? They there's reasons to go back. Oppenheimer did it, Barbie did it, Wicked did it. This movie just didn't do it because it was too middle ground. So that's kind of where that movie stood. My next one is, the movie you and I disagree on, Joker: Folie à Deux. I just didn't like it, really
Fair
at all.
enough.
I will say this was the 5th one on my list. Like, I was torn between it and a couple of the other ones that didn't make it on the list, but at the end of the day, I thought, "Okay, what is a to be the worst 5 movies, I didn't enjoy watching it, I wouldn't watch it again, it made me wanna talk about it, but in a negative way." That
Mm,
was Joker: Folie à Deux.
'kay.
Next one is Subservience.
The Megan
Which
Fox.
yes, because
I
it
feel like,
was
Mike,
so bad.
if you had watched this at the beginning of the year, this would have been a case of at the end of the year, you would have been like, "What was this
What was
movie?"
that? That's right, but because it's fresh in my mind, I put it on my list because it was so bad. I am interested in this concept. I like
Sure.
that idea of AI and what they'll do when they take over, and I find the movie realistic. Like, I do think this would happen. I could see this happening. It's not like it was unrealistic. It was just poorly done, and I just felt strongly that even though Megan Fox's performance was fine and adequate, I have seen this exact concept done multiple times better, including this year with that Megan movie. So I think Subservience is something I would never recommend to anyone, and I would say like there's not much really going for it in this movie. So Subservience. Number 4 is Borderlands. Most forgettable blockbuster movie of the year. Terrible and atrocious in every way. Awful, awful movie. I don't know if Eli Roth even knows what he's doing as a filmmaker anymore. Like, it was that bad. Where I'm just like, this seems not only like a bad movie, it feels incompetent. It's something that I still think about how atrocious this movie is, considering some pretty good actors that are in it. Borderlands is definitely on this list. It was that bad.
I think that's interesting that you said that you feel like he doesn't even know what he's doing as a filmmaker when his movie Thanksgiving has been
Hugely like raved by people. Like people
yeah.
love that movie.
And I think
Absolutely.
that came out just a little bit before this or like
Yes.
within a year of each
Within a
other.
year of each other, yeah.
So,
But like maybe he has a like an area he's really good in. Right? Like maybe
yeah,
he has a niche
slasher.
slasher films. Maybe he understands that better, and maybe Borderlands was too big of
This
a
was his
leap,
payday
maybe?
so that he can
Yeah.
keep making movies like Thanksgiving.
Fair enough. I wouldn't blame him for that, but it's one of my worst movies of the year. And finally, this is the movie that I absolutely believe is the worst movie I've seen all year, Madam Web. I it was
You
so
and
bad.
everyone else,
it
apparently.
was so atrociously bad. No one could save this movie. It was so awful. I've never been sitting in a movie before and had the experience of, I kind of have to go to the washroom, but I'll wait. In this movie, I'm like, I'm not waiting. I'm not risking like bladder disease to for this. And I was thinking, okay, this is a part where they're going into the woods. They're gonna like have to for some reason separate, and she's gonna go and have like a flashback. I predicted, and I went to the washroom, came back, and that's what happened. Like I accurately predicted what was going on. I'm like, this movie is so dumb that it can't even like do anything except for everything that you predict it's going to do. The performances were awful, considering again, when I reveal my best movies, two of the actors in Madam Web are in two of my favorite movies of the year. So that tells you something about no one could have saved this movie from itself. So Madam Web, there's my
Sorry,
five
do
movies.
do a quick recap. That was Madam Web
Madam Web, Borderlands, Subservience, Joker Folie à Deux,
and Gladiation.
Gladiator
Right.
2.
Yeah.
That's my worst movies. Okay, Taylor, Airplane It. I had 5 and you had 4.
Yeah. That's
Usually this is our shortest category, I would argue.
yeah, because it's kind of like the ugly stepsister category.
It is.
The
We
category
don't
you
know where the movie fits. So
yeah.
you can like put it here. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, this movie wasn't horrible, but it also don't run out and see it. So Irish Wish, which I'm pretty sure is the Lindsay Lohan movie. I can't believe that's a 2024 release.
That's right.
Well, there you go. Um Babes, which in hindsight probably could be a skip it. I don't think it's very memorable. But it wouldn't make it for a bad airplane comedy if you're looking to kill time. Brothers, definitely 100% an airplane movie, and Mary, which I just watched a couple weeks ago, a Netflix original. So I think I kind of stand by that. I think airplane, like we said, airplane it is a kind of a funny category. I feel like it's a definitely in the moment category, and probably one that like looking back you're like you could probably move these movies around.
Right.
um or like I think of Babes where I'm like in hindsight I don't feel like that movie is super memorable, but that's kind of like an airplane it category. That's like when I describe airplane it in my mind, it's the movies that um you never got a chance to watch, but you have 3 hours to kill, 4 or 5 hours to kill on an airplane. Oh, they have this random movie that I heard about,
Mhm.
but I haven't got around to watching it. I don't care if it's forgettable. I'm just killing time. That's how I describe the airplane category. Literally, like, what movie would I watch on an airplane? So, like, these movies, yeah, that seems fair. Mary is a little bit heavier than I would typically like in an airplane category, but I'll keep it there. I think that's fine. So there you go. That's my airplane category for the year.
Yeah, my airplane. It's there's only one that I maybe would move. So I have 5 here: Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, Immaculate, Miller's Girl, Alien Romulus, and Pray for the Devil. So Alien Romulus is probably the only movie that maybe I would move up to a stream it. This is the thing I think about Alien Romulus. Half of that movie is the best Alien movie I've seen since like the original Alien movies. The second half is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It falls off a cliff so fast, and it flips to being schlocky and weird and all the things I hate about remakes, it had me for a bit. It was a good premise. It had interesting cast of characters. It was a simple and easy little mission they have to go on. It was really easy to understand. And then it just started to explode all over the place. One of the things is the I can't remember the actor's name, but he plays the kind of robot companion of the girl who played Priscilla. Um, and he's very, very good. And his performance was also worthwhile. So Alien Romulus is the only movie that maybe it's more of a like light stream it than it is anything else. But the second half of the movie is so bad that you kind of forget that the first half was so well done. So that's really the only one. The rest of these, honestly, most of them are pretty forgettable, and I think they deserve to be in Air Planet.
Okay. Uh,
So, well, stream its are the biggest category. You had 13, and I had 15. So again, we don't have to spend a lot of time on these movies, but as you go through your lists, if there's any that you think are worth bringing up again or moving around, let us know, because there's two on here that I could have sworn you said were see its, but that they were your stream its.
I'll be interesting to know which ones you think.
I'll tell you when you get to them.
Okay.
I
So,
will.
Lisa Frankenstein. This was one of my most anticipated movies at the end of 2023. I remember liking it a lot, but thinking that it was an imperfect movie and that I think it would have been stronger in the hands of a more seasoned director. This was, I think, I forget the name of the director. She's the daughter of someone, I
Mhm.
think. First time directing. In hindsight, I think, you know, if I'm to look back at my year, what movie stood out the most, or what one have I been like going back and thinking about? Lisa Frankenstein actually has been living rent free in my mind for a while. So I would actually bump that up to a see it.
Oh,
Um, Interestingly, I think it's an imperfect movie, but it's a lot of fun to watch. And I think that it will age well. That's kind of my overall, like, I could really see it becoming kind of more of a cult classic.
mm,
Again, like, I don't think it's a perfect movie. I think there were I just think it was a director who had a good vision but didn't you know, just hasn't made enough movies yet to maybe execute as well as she would have liked. But anyways, that's kind of the standout from this list that I would move around. Interestingly, I'm seeing Lisa Frankenstein on a lot of worst of lists, and
really?
I think that's just like absolutely bananas because even though the movie is imperfect, it has way more to offer than the majority of movies that are coming out right now. Like,
Wow.
say, even if it's like a plot that you don't like, you have to give it to the filmmakers that it's an original story and it took you know, it took some guts to make it the way they made it. And so I think it's absolutely insane that it's on worst of list. So that's the big standout. And then I saw Lover Stalker Killer, which is a documentary on Netflix, just a true crime documentary. And I obviously at the beginning of the year kind of went on a documentary rabbit hole. And then I saw Hell Camp, Teen Nightmare. I think that's also a Netflix. The Program, Crime, Cults, and Kidnapping. Also, I believe a Netflix. Hell Camp and The Program are about these programs that troubled teen. There you go. It's about the troubled teen industry. Then I saw Late Night with the Devil, which was a
Mhm.
stream it. This one I wonder, Mike, if you think it's a see it for me. This was one that I was so excited to see. And again, I just felt like um there were so many interesting things about this movie, and that
Yeah.
it like started, you saw it too, right, Mike? Like, it starts
Yeah,
off so strong,
it does. Yeah.
and then maybe like the ending ruined it for
It's
me.
really
So
the ending, yeah, and I didn't think this was a see it because we both reviewed it. I
yeah,
knew we both felt very similarly about it. I think we both gave it stream its just because that ending,
ruined it.
again, it's only the last, like, 15, 20 minutes, but it's an important, like, endings are important, and I feel
Huge.
like they just didn't stick the landing.
There was also some bad CGI. Like, I didn't like the character design for the demon. Um and some of the choices they made for the possession I didn't agree with. I don't know
Mhm.
if it was budgetary constraints or what have you, but um overall I'm comfortable keeping it at a stream it. It's almost a shame that it's a stream it because it started off so
Yes.
strong.
Yeah.
um Unfrosted, that was a fun little movie with Jerry Seinfeld about Pop Tarts. I think it was a little maybe forgettable, but it was a fun one, and I think it's a Netflix original, so it's worth a watch if you're just looking for something kind of silly. The Idea of You, which I want to say it's a rom com with Anne
Yes.
Hathaway,
That's right. That's right.
a direct to Amazon Prime. Hitman, which was much better than The Idea of You. A Family Affair, which I think it's kind of the similar premise of The Idea of You, but it has Nicole Kidman and Zac Efron. The
Mhm.
Bike Riders, which I thought was quite good.
The
First
Bike
Omen.
Riders was definitely one of them that I thought you had given a see it
It
to.
might have. That's like I'm surprised that it is on my stream it list, but like
Maybe it was borderline for you or something,
it
like,
could have
maybe it was
been it
right
could have been
there?
borderline because your
Yeah,
data, Mike, is only as good as the data you have, and
that's right.
sometimes you have to interpret my reviews. But
I sure do.
if the Bike Riders is a stream it, it's a very very high stream it
Yeah,
from me.
yeah.
The First Omen, definitely a stream it, possibly even a skip it. Our Little Secret, Mike, I don't.
Mhm.
That must have been a recent one because it's at the end of my list. I cannot. Our Little Secret.
That's also a Lindsay Lohan movie. I believe it was
Oh,
one
her
of your Christmas
Christmas.
movies.
Yes, yes. Okay, yep. And then Joker, Fully Adieu. So that seems fair. Like those are streamers are middle of the line. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
they have redeeming qualities for some people. You don't need to rush out to see these ones. Again, the Bike Riders definitely I would bump that up to a pretty strong stream it, and then Lisa
yeah.
Frankenstein is a see it for me this year.
If I remember correctly, you were pretty positive on the Bike Riders. I think you had some issues with it, maybe it bumped it down. But
That
you
sounds about right.
yeah,
Like,
but
I
you
could have
did
had problems with the script or the
yeah,
narrative.
but you did like it for the most part. I think that's
Yeah.
why I thought it was a see it.
Also, did I not see Priscilla in 2024, or was that a 2023 movie?
So that was a 2023 movie.
Okay,
You might have
funny.
seen it in 24, but it was a 23 movie. Like, it was one of those ones that you would have seen around Oscars time.
Right.
So it probably was, like, either right at the end of the year, right at the beginning of the year, but counted towards last
Got
year.
it. That's why, like, it's so funny doing these lists because sometimes, Mike, we end up watching, um especially when we're getting ready for the Oscars and the award shows, we end up watching movies from the year previous, but they, like, feel like this year's movies.
Mhm.
You know what I
They
mean?
do.
So that's
Even though
why.
they're from the previous year,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Oh, what didn't I watch Priscilla?" And you're like, "Yeah, probably." But that makes sense. I probably watched Priscilla in, like, February
That's
of
right.
this
Yeah,
year. So,
yeah.
anyways, there you
Um,
go.
so I had 15 streamets, and mine were Mean Girls, the 2024 musical, Dune Part 2, which I think is probably one of my more disappointing movies of the year was Dune Part 2. I think I wanted to like it more, and it's one that I would want to bump it up to a see it, but I just don't think I liked it enough.
I think
like
you said, Mike, that you are gonna maybe reserve judgment until you see the final part.
It's because it wasn't a complete
Yeah.
narrative, which I hate about first parts of movies. Like, same like Wicked, where it's like I don't tell a complete like Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers is a complete movie, even though there's a third part, right? Like, it
That's
still feels there's a narrative within it that resolves itself.
Mike, I don't even think that's a hot take. I think Hollywood should just give their head a shake. I think it's so wild when you make these three-part movies or whatever, and like the middle movie, it feels just like a 2.5 long episode of
Yes,
something. It's so
yes,
stupid.
yes.
When
Where
did we when
the
did we
first
make this
movie
change?
I don't know because the first movie feels so new and interesting and good, and I'm sure the third movie is going to be a good finale. But like the Lord of the Rings model is the good one,
Yes.
right? The Two Towers is a complete movie, and I think that that's the mistake. If you're going to do a part one and part two, or you're going to do a three-parter, have each movie be a complete narrative on its own. Introduce an element that needs to be solved. Even Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring, it's a big setup movie. It has a narrative that resolves itself. Like there's a
Sure.
resolution. There's an end to a journey that's part of that. It's just good storytelling. I don't know when this happened. I have no like I have no clue.
It's just so stupid because especially when I feel like movie production maybe is faster than it was when we were kids, but it used to be that there was like 2, 3, 4 years between movies at times. And it's like, so yeah, you better make your second movie a complete movie because I'm not
Yeah,
going to see the next one for like
def-
another 2 years.
definitely.
So
um,
stupid,
and then I saw Monkey Man, the Dev Patel movie, which had a
right?
great ending to it, which was a stream it. Civil War, Late Night with the Devil, which we've already talked about. Fly Me to the Moon, the movie I almost fell asleep during. Twisters, which I think was a surprise summer movie that I enjoyed. A stream it, not quite a see it, but still pretty enjoyable. Trap, ISS, Fall Guy, His Three Daughters, which I know was getting a lot of awards buzz, but I think has died down a little bit. Um, Don't Move, Saturday Night, Wicked, and Carry On were all my streamits. And I think like these last ones, Saturday Night, Wicked, and Carry On, I did enjoy all those movies. They just had like an element or two in them that I can't ignore, and I wouldn't give it a see it just because I like Wicked's horrific sound issues is it's just amateur hour.
Oh, Mike, that reminds me. So Dan and I were at the movies this past weekend, and I forget what it was a trailer, and I forget what movie it was. And I leaned over to Dan and I said, "The sound mixing on this is horrible. All I can hear is the background noise and not the dialogue." And Dan said, "Oh, I hope it's just this trailer and not the whole movie." The sound did correct itself. It obviously was bad sound mixing on that trailer. It wasn't a
Mixing,
theater
yeah.
problem,
No,
but
no.
that it made me think of you and Wicked.
Oh yeah.
It was atrocious. Like you could not make out the dialogue of
Yeah,
the trailer.
and it's such a dumb mistake. Like it's so easy to fix
It
it.
seems kind of amateur hour.
It
Like
is. It
so
is.
many people have to approve the final product. I assume, like when you're
Yes.
spending like a multi-million dollar project, I assume someone's
Yeah,
listening for these things.
that's right.
And the way you describe it, it's like you're just moving things in the sound editing software. Like it doesn't sound it sounds like it's an easy fix, I guess is what I'm trying
It
to
is.
say.
It's certainly something someone should have caught. So yeah, it's enough to get me that. I will not be mad about Wicked being nominated for any category at the Oscars this year except for sound. If they're nominated for sound, I'm writing a letter.
It's like when Bohemian Rhapsody was nominated and won Best Editing, even though it definitely had some of the worst editing of
Worse than
that year.
or when La La Land was nominated for best costume.
Ugh.
They're just wearing clothes. Like it's not anyway. So there you go. Those are my stream its. So let's move on to our see its, and within here we will be selecting our top 5 movies of the year. Taylor, you had 12 see its, and I also had 12 see its.
Huh, not a
We
bad
both
year.
Yeah, we both had 12 movies that we really liked, which was great.
My first one was Scoop. This was one of those movies, Mike, where I looked at the list and I was like, Scoop, but it's it's the movie about it's a Netflix original, I'm pretty sure. It's about the story breaking about Prince Andrew's connection with Jeffrey Epstein and the accusations that he had sex with an underage girl. So it's a journalism movie. I guess I
Yeah.
would describe that as the genre. Not really my typical genre, but I did enjoy the movie. So even though I couldn't remember it at first shake, it was a good movie. I have The Fall Guy, which interestingly was on your stream it, but I remember liking it a lot more than you liked it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, which gave me motion sickness, and I thought my brain was bleeding again in theater, but it was it was good.
You're
so good,
describing a great movie.
so good. I thought my brain was bleeding. Um, Thelma, Thelma, the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, Long Legs, Jackpot, which I think was on your skip it list.
It was.
Yeah, you
This
hated
was the movie
Jackpot.
we were the most
Divided
divided on
on.
this year. Yeah, was Jackpot.
I think in the grand scheme of things, Jackpot probably is more of a stream it or an airplane it, but I
Probably.
definitely I definitely
You
was.
loved it though.
I loved
You
it.
were
Yeah.
raving it.
I
Yeah.
thought it was great. You have the Deliverance on here, Mike. I thought that was a stream it. This might have been one of those reviews where I was so wishy-washy on it. You didn't know where to put it on my rankings.
Yeah, it
But
says on socials it says see it, but
right.
yeah, maybe it was
Um I'm going to
wishy-washy.
just do a little self-correction and say if I did say it was a see it, it's definitely more of a stream it. This movie was so disjointed. This was a movie where I felt like the horror was absolutely absent. It's supposed to be a horror movie, a possession movie, kind of a classic take on a possession movie. I thought the horror was absolutely absent, horribly done, not good at all. But the family drama aspect of the movie and kind of the social commentary, the look of social issues was very well handled. So
Mm.
it was a very disjointed viewing experience for me, and because it was a horror movie, it was marketed as a horror movie, and it on surface level it is a horror movie. I thought it utterly failed as a horror movie, and so for that reason it should be a stream it. um Milk and Cereal, which was this weird little viral movie that's available on YouTube, or it was. I don't know if it still is. Very, very good. Very well done. The Substance, Hot Frosty. I don't think that's a see it, Mike.
That's what you put. You said see it.
Uh,
You said see it for Hot Frosty.
okay, well, my brain was still bleeding from Furiosa.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a stream it. That's a stream it. And then The Apprentice, which is my most recent watch. So out of this is it's tough. It's so tough to pick the best movies. I was thinking like, okay, are these the best movies overall? Are these just the movies that I liked the most? So I kind of, I'll take a little bit of like a joint. It's both movies that I enjoyed and that I also think just were like really good. In no particular order, I'm gonna say Longlegs, The Apprentice, The Substance,
I'm 3 for 3 so far.
Lisa Frankenstein,
Ah,
and then
yeah.
the movie that I'm gonna review 2 weeks from now that I saw this past weekend, which I have some pretty good stories about the actual movie going experience. Mike, please remind me to tell you.
Yeah.
Nosferatu.
Yeah, okay. So I got three of the 5 right.
Okay.
I did not know you were going to upgrade Lisa Frankenstein, and of course, you broke the rules with Nosferatu as you're wont to do. I also saw Nosferatu, so we'll be reviewing that together. That's the one we were talking about earlier.
And you're not going to include it on your rankings list for 2024?
Well, no, because I was trying to not break the rules.
Fair
You know,
enough. Well,
I
like if I'm not going to break the rules, I'll substitute. I'll take out Nosferatu and add Thelma. I thought Thelma was a very good movie, and just a unique new story, like in a sea of remakes and reboots and franchises. Thelma was a really refreshing watch. So that was what I was going to originally have Thelma on my list. But then I thought it would be a disservice to Nosferatu not to
listen.
not include
We
it.
got to put Nosferatu on there for you. I mean, you want to break the rules, you're going to do it. That's the show, right? As you once said to me, I'm just the talent.
Exactly.
Um, okay, so my see it's this
Wait,
year.
so what did you think the other two of mine were going to be?
Oh, I thought you were going to pick the Fall Guy,
It was a
um,
very good movie.
and then Furiosa, despite
Both
your brain
both
bleed.
very good
You
movies.
well, you had said for Furiosa again, even though you had said, I remember you talking about your experience and how it was kind of nauseous. You were very complimentary of that movie and its visuals, so much that I ended up watching it because of your review and not liking it as
Yeah.
much. But still, I just remembered you liking it so much. I thought, oh, maybe that would be on there as like a 5th movie or whatever.
It's tough. Like, if I was just to say, like, movies that I enjoyed, like, just like no baggage, not looking to like say best of, blah, 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 then Fall Guy and Furiosa probably would be on the list for
Yeah,
2024. But because it's more of like a best of, like what are the
yeah,
strongest movies?
yeah.
So like for instance, The Substance is on my best of list, even though that's not a movie. And I think it came out in my review, Mike. That's not a movie that I would typically sit through. I don't
Right.
really like body horror, but it was very well done and very
Mhm.
well acted. And so I think it's one of the best movies of the year, certainly. Did I like it? Did I like Fall Guy more than The Substance? Yes. Did I like Hitman more than The Substance? Probably, but Hitman's on on the stream it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's so tricky doing these lists
It
because
is.
things are subjective and you're also trying to appeal to the
Yeah.
audience. And I also would say that my list tries to like obviously having Lisa Frankenstein on my best of list is definitely like a Taylor movie, like an ode to my own interests. But I also trying to get a sense of like award season. Like that's,
Mm.
like I'm
Mhm.
sure you feel the same way. You're kind of when you're doing this end of list, you're kind of also looking ahead towards the Oscars, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
that's why again, like Fall Guy Furiosa, like I don't know, like they might be winning like technical awards, but they
Sure.
certainly are not going to be like leading the pack.
No, they wouldn't be. Whereas Nosferatu, The Substance, even The Apprentice, like you're hearing a lot of buzz about those
Yeah.
movies. So yeah, no,
Thelma.
that
I
makes
wouldn't be
total sense.
surprised if Thelma gets nominated for a writing
Yeah.
award.
So my see it list also has 12 movies on it. So I'll go through my list first and then reveal my top five. So my see it's were The Substance, Turtles All the Way Down, Challengers, Deadpool and Wolverine, Anyone But You, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Inside Out 2, A Quiet Place Day 1, The Commandant's Shadow, Sing Sing, Will and Harper, and Speak No Evil 2024. Um, it's interesting because I have two documentaries on here.
That's
Um,
not your normal MO.
it is not, and I had two documentaries that I actually liked. I think The Commandant's Shadow might be one of the best documentaries I've ever seen.
Ooh.
Um, it was very well done. And I think also because as a companion piece to the movie we saw last year, um,
The
which
quiet. Oh my gosh. It's not
I
the
can't
quiet
even
zone.
remember.
Zone of
Yeah,
interest.
Zone of
Zone of
Interest.
interest.
Yes, it's a really good companion piece to Zone of Interest. Like it I think it really follows that up well. It does a great job of continuing and expanding upon that story in a really good way. So I highly recommend it. But of my see it was tough. It was really tough. I probably could have had 7 or 8 movies for my best of, but I did manage to narrow it down. So my 5 best movies of the year are first The Substance. Again, this is in no particular order, but The Substance. I kind of agree with you, Taylor. It's not my typical movie, but I can't ignore how well done it was and how interesting it was and how it handled like a very interesting subject matter that I would want to return back to and learn more about. And I thought it overall was a very good movie and is probably going to get a lot of awards buzz, deservedly so, for those performances. So The Substance is on there. Challengers. I still think Challengers has one of the best shot movie sequences at this particular tennis match near the end. Um, Especially with the rise in tension, the way the narrative is told of continuously kind of going back and forth to this tennis match between these two and then learning about the history between these two and Zendaya. I think it was a really well done movie. I think it's going to be forgotten about in award seasons because it came out so early, but
Mm.
I don't think it should be. I think the movie deserves, certainly for writing, maybe cinematography, Zendaya's performance. I think the movie deserves a little bit more. And I just can't believe she had a baby for it. Anyway, it's a whole thing. Unless you've seen Challenges, what I said doesn't make any sense. But the character went so far as to have a baby just to manipulate someone. Anyway, um, the next one is Turtles All the Way Down. This is also not my typical kind of movie. This is like a teen based on a teen young audience novel. Like what are those called?
John
TYA.
Green.
Yeah,
YA.
yeah, John Green YA novel. But it was so well done. And the lead actor, she was in Madam Web, is also in this movie and is the lead and is incredible in it. And I really highly recommend it for anyone who's looking to harken back to the teen movies of old. It's funny, but it's more heartfelt than anything else. It is more of a drama, but it has some great humor. It's really well written. It's really well acted. It was a surprise movie of the year for me. So I've got Turtles all the way down on my list. Deadpool and Wolverine, had to throw that on here. It was
Of
the best
course.
superhero movie of the year. I laughed. I saw it twice in theaters. I laughed as hard the second time. I really, really enjoyed this movie. I'm glad they made it. I'm glad I saw it. It's definitely on the list. And the last movie, also following along the categories of movies that I don't normally watch and enjoy, Anyone But You made it on this list.
Sydney Sweeney,
Sydney
the
Sweeney
movie
rom
that
com.
launched our bombshell discourse.
That's right. It for a romantic comedy, it's excellent. It's really well done. It does the tropes that are tropes really well, and the fact that it's also based on a Shakespearean play, and the way that I mean, they used to do that with rom coms all the time, right? Like Ten
Hmm.
Things I Hate About You,
She's the
that
man.
She's the Man, the Amanda Bynes one. And though I really enjoyed both those movies when younger and going to it, and this kind of reminded me of those. And I think for the genre of romantic comedy, this was a romantic comedy that did something that most don't, which has kept me interested. And was funny and interesting and really well performed. So there you go. The Substance, Challengers, Turtles all the way down, Deadpool and Wolverine, and Anyone But You are my top 5 movies of the year. Some really surprises for me on there, Taylor. Normally, I wouldn't be watching these kinds of movies, but hey, I mean, if a good movie's a good movie, I don't really care what the genre is.
That's kind of our motto. We're not movie snobs.
No, and again, it was close. A Quiet Place Day One, really good. Commandant's Shadow, Sing Sing deserves a lot of awards. Um, I really enjoyed all those movies. It came really close, but again, I kind of did the same thing you did, Taylor. But I really thought like, what movies did I think about? And what movies did I want to revisit? And what movies surprised me or left me thinking, positive things or made me go, "Oh, wow, that was like really good for the genre, the type." That's why I chose these movies. Like
Hmm.
they transcend the genre, where they're really well done, really well performed, all things that I like about films, and that's how I put my list together. There you go. So, Taylor, before we go, you wanted to quickly talk about movies we haven't seen yet that we're really interested to see next.
Yep. So 2024 movies, not looking ahead to 2025 yet. These movies are the ones that are on my radar that either just because they look interesting and they've had late release dates this year and I haven't got a chance to see them, or because they're probably going to have a lot of Oscar buzz. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the new Bob Dylan biopic that's getting a lot of good buzz, A Total Unknown. I think that's what it's called, with little Timmy Chalamet. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm looking forward to seeing The Last Showgirl with Pamela Anderson. I haven't seen I've seen some buzz around it, but I haven't seen like release date stuff about it. So
Mhm.
I think it's a 2024 release, Mike. It just hasn't come for rental yet, as far as I know. I'm also
Mhm.
really looking forward to Honora. I think that's how you pronounce the name. It's about
Yes,
a sex
me
worker
too.
who marries the son of a Russian oligarch. So very much up my alley. So and it's apparently that movie has a lot of heart and it's getting a lot of
Mhm.
great buzz too. Nicole, friend of Taylor, friend of the show, told me that I have to see Baby Girl with Nicole Kidman. This, Mike, is the latest in 2024. Seemed to be the year of movies about older women dating significantly younger men. And
Mhm.
in fact,
Mhm.
Nicole Kidman was in one of those movies with Zac Efron this year. She's got another one coming out. So it seems it's so interesting that there's these trends
Trends.
in
Yeah.
movies where you'll have a year where it seems like the same story is told like four different times. So, but Nicole's says that I have to see it. She doesn't know my movie tastes. I'm getting kind of piano teacher vibes from this movie without it being maybe uh as intense piano teacher, but I'm not sure. It almost looks like a psychosexual thriller. Mike, do
Well,
you know
yeah,
much about it?
it seems more like a thriller to me. Like I
Yeah,
don't know much about it, but everything I've seen makes me think more thriller
less
than like a
romance.
yeah, like less romance and more psychological thriller than
Yeah.
anything else.
So, normally I trust Nicole's judgment. I shouldn't say normally. I trust Nicole's judgment. She knows my movie taste pretty well. So, Baby Girl's on my list. Oh, I think those are the main ones. Um, I was obviously looking forward to Nosferatu, and I got a chance to watch it over the Christmas break. I watched Conclave over the Christmas break, but we'll review that next week. So
Mhm.
I'm sure there's a couple other stragglers, but those are the big ones that I'm looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, pretty much the lists are very similar. I had Conclave and Nosferatu on there. Now having seen Nosferatu, Conclave's coming up next. Um, still never getting a chance to see Woman of the Hour.
Right.
Is definitely one that's on there for me. So yeah, I look towards the awards. What's getting the buzz? That's where my focus kind of turns to, really, for the next couple of weeks, turning into the next month or so, till we get the Oscar nominations. Like I want to catch up on some of these movies, a lot of which you just named. So yeah, I'm very excited for that.
So in
So
the meantime, Mike, we'll just remind everyone about
yeah,
Conclave. And again, for newer listeners to the show, when we do a movie and book club, there will be spoilers. So come prepared, having read the book, watch the movie, or neither. Does you no pressure. You don't have to.
yeah.
But we will be talking about plot, and this movie does have a pretty big plot point that I'm sure we're going to spend a lot of time talking about. So just come prepared for that. And we would love for you to write in your questions, your comments. Tell us what you thought of the book or the movie, and we will try to get to as many as we can during next week's episode.
Yeah, we'll try to get to as many as we can when we can, but definitely write in. Tell us what you thought of it. But yeah, definitely full spoilers. Keep that in mind. Thank you, everybody, for listening this week. Join us next week, Conclave Book and Movie Club. Email us anytime. Go to our website, check it out, send in any thoughts you have. Find us on social media. We'll accept your comments any which way, and you'll hear from us next week.
Go see some movies.
Thank you for listening to You Had Me at Skip It, a Soul One Arts Inc. podcast. This podcast is produced by Mike Shepard and Austin Spinner Summer. It is a project of Soul One Arts Inc. To learn more about Soul One and all the great work that Soul One is doing in the arts community, especially in film, theater, and other performing arts, visit soul1arts.ca. You can contribute to this podcast by visiting soul1arts.ca and going to the podcast tab. You'll find all the information on You Had Me at Skip It and how you can get your questions read on air each week. Thank you again for listening.